Welcome to Highland Waves, a podcast originating from Marshbrook Studios, located beside the world-renowned Margaree River in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Canada. Highland Waves feature stories about the people, the places, and the visitors to Inverness County. I'm Pat Wall, host of Highland Waves. Today it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome musical virtuoso Scott Macmillan, who's taught, performed, conducted, and entertained audiences worldwide in venues from kitchens, pubs, university, and concert halls, including the world-famous Carnegie Hall in New York City. Scott, welcome to Highland Waves.
Well, I'm glad to be here, thanks.
To begin our podcast, Scott is going to introduce and play a piece of his music. Scott, take it away.
Okay, I've got two jigs here. A medley of two jigs. One's called the Loch Long Jig, which is a lake in Scotland, and the other one is called Shorn Locks, celebrating the day I got my hair cut down in Hubbard's Beach.
Scott, that was splendid. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, it all began on Edward Street in Halifax. I had an older brother that brought a guitar into the house, and when he wasn't around, I snuck around and learned how to play it.
What's your connection to Cape Breton?
My connection to Cape Breton, my first connection to Cape Breton came through a friend, Dave McIsaac, who was my high school buddy, and he introduced me to the Cape Breton music at his house. And I was hired, not, I didn't make any money, but I sure made a lot of friends. And Dave would play the fiddle at their house parties, and I was introduced to the Cape Breton music at that time.
Okay. Who were your early mentors?
My early mentors, I would say on the blues side was Eric Clapton. Very much the early Clapton recordings are wonderful. And also on the blues side was B.B. King. And then on the Celtic side, it would have been Dave himself, really. Jarvis Benoit was a big influence on me. I did a lot of music with Jarvis, and I learned how to accompany. And he was one thing that Jarvis taught me is he loved to play. When the fiddle was in his hands, he radiated. So I learned that big time from Jarvis.
What about today? Are there people who you really look up to today in music?
Oh, yeah, there are. And actually, in the last year and a half, I've gone on a Beethoven binge, listening to a whole bunch of Beethoven violin sonatas. And his music is a lot of fun and a lot of challenging. And I find his compositions kind of very free. I can hear him improvising in his compositions, and improvisation is really important. I stress that with my students. You got to know how to improvise. Ideas come from that.
In my experience listening to you, it's been in big and small venues. In fact, I was really interested in your maritime pops at the Symphony of Nova Scotia. And through all of that, and some of the people who you just mentioned, I've never seen you play a 12-string guitar.
A 12-string guitar?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess you haven't been in the right place at the right time. I have. I used to have one, and presently I don't. No, I never had the chance to really play out on one in a concert.
Okay. Well, Eric Clapton, I haven't seen him play either, so it's not a common instrument to play in solo. It doesn't seem to me.
No, it's. I used to have one, but unfortunately the neck fell off of it. It was a gorgeous guitar. It was a Guild, and the thing was beyond repair, so I just had to let it go.
So, besides the number of strings, what is the big difference in playing a 12-string as opposed to a 6-string?
Well, it helps to have fat fingers. And that's because the strings are all paired up. There's a 12-string has 6 pairs, whereas of course a 6-string guitar has 6 singles. So you just have to make sure you plunk your fingers down on 2 strings every time, and it gets a little bit tricky on the picking side to jump over to the next strings, because the space between the lower of the pair and the upper of the next pair is a little bit narrower than it would be on a 6-string, and it's a different sound and a different technique. And funnily enough, when early days when I was with Dave McIsaac in Halifax, accompanying him, he had a 12-string guitar, so I was introduced to that instrument right then and there.
Okay. You probably answered some of this question, but how did you get to be a guitar virtuoso?
Practice.
Practice?
Yeah, and I practice every day.
Okay, so that's how you stay there.
That's how I stay there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a favorite genre of music?
No, but I like music that's unpredictable. I like music that keeps my ear going. Like a lot of stuff I find too predictable. I know exactly what's going to happen, and I like music that's just like it keeps my interest up. It's like reading a good book. You just don't know what's around the next corner, and whatever the music is, I like the music that doesn't let me down.
Do you have different guitars for different genres of music?
Yes, I do. I have, on electric guitars, I have a Stratocaster, which is really good for rock. It's also good for jazz, but it's a real rock guitar. And then I have a Gibson ES335, which is a little bit more of a mellow guitar. But both of those, you can really twang on them too. And for acoustic, I'm having a great time with my Larrivee, a steel string acoustic. I'm a steel string acoustic player. I did dabble into the nylon string fingerstyle for a while, but I couldn't keep my fingernails intact, so I had to let that go and use the pick. I use my fingers as well, so they call it a hybrid. But different guitars for different styles, yeah. Or I like to stretch the guitar itself. You could have one guitar and do a lot of different styles with it.
What aspect of guitar playing ignites your passion, and what's the most challenging part?
Well, the most challenging, I would say, is longevity. Like playing the guitar is like playing hockey. You got you got to get out there and go and go and go and go. And when you think you're tired out, you got to keep on going. It's a real. I do teach. I've learned a lot from teaching, and teaching. I tell my students, you got to be able to go the long haul. And if you don't practice and have your chops ready for, playing straight for 2 hours, just, that's a lot, but you should be able to handle that. And I'm not really an athletic type guy. I'm not a runner I'm a cyclist, but the physicality of it is so important.
It's interesting. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
You've played Carnegie Hall. How did that come about?
Oh, well, we got a couple of weeks here.
Oh, okay.
There was a man named Pierre Perron, and he was a choral director in Halifax. And he was involved with, I can't remember the name of the organization, but choirs were invited to attend Carnegie Hall, and the choristers would all ante up about $2,000, and they would go to New York, sing in the choir, get 4 nights in a hotel, and sing in Carnegie Hall. And of course there was quality control and who's invited and who isn't. And Pierre Perron took a choir down there before the chance to take the Celtic Mass, which is my piece. And they did well, and the organization said, well, why don't you come back and bring a Canadian composition? So he was familiar with my Celtic Mass for the Sea. So he contacted me and he said, how would you feel about that if Celtic Mass for the Sea was done in Carnegie Hall through this whole organization? I said, well, yeah, I'm totally into that. And that's how it all came about. Wow. And that particular day that it was performed, there was 3 other choirs, large choirs, that were performing that very same day.
Is there more people interested in learning music today than, let's say, 20 years ago, in your experience?
Yes and no. That's an interesting question. I teach at Dalhousie, and the number of people coming in is down. It's not as many as it was 8 years ago, 9 years ago. However, the amount of retired people that want to go back to music is actually more. There's a lot of people that are, they finished their job and they're retired and they want to get back to their music. They could be rockers from the 60s. I've got a couple of very fine musicians that kind of let it go for the last 40 years, and now they want to come back to it. And I find those people are my most, really good students. They work at it, and it means a lot to them. So on that side of things, I think there's more. On the other side of things, there's less people in my life, younger people coming in. But it's hard to know. That's a hard question to really answer definitively.
What other instruments do you play and teach?
Oh, well, I don't teach any other ones.
Okay.
I'm a keyboard player, but not of any, proficiency. I have enough piano skills that I can sit and improvise and come up with ideas. And as a youngster, I was kind of into it. I didn't really have proper piano lessons. I got into ragtime piano for a little while, and stride piano and bluesy kind of stuff. And my keyboard skills are purely functional. And other thing, I can play the mandolin. That's been a handy thing in terms of writing for violin.
Okay.
It's the same fingering. And basically, I'm a guitar player. I play the banjo, but I tune it like a guitar. So, and I play it with a flat pick. So that's a cheat. But when I need to have a banjo, and I can do it.
How do you balance your solo work with collaborations and other projects?
Well, it's a balance with life. Now, I've just turned 69, and at this point in my life, it's a balance. Life is all a balance. I teach at Dalhousie, and that's going fine. It's going full bang, and I've performing not as much as I used to. There's not as many gigs. It's really hard to find performance opportunities. I have to create them my own. I'm taking on some new compositions. I'm writing for a guitar ensemble these days, and which is Dalhousie's a nice outlet for that, because I do have guitarists and I can test drive things right there.
You earn your living by playing music, and you do very well at it. I'm not sure it's just the music, but it's also, you have to have an ability to market yourself. How do you do that?
Well, I have a very important person in my life, my wife, and we've been, as my son says, we're more than the sum of the parts. And she's been behind me all the way. Her name is Jennifer Brickenden, and we collaborated with each other on the Celtic Mass for the Sea. And she's been the business partner to my creativity, and without her in my life, my career would definitely not have been what it is, and what it is ongoing too.
That's wonderful. You are a composer. Can you describe the process of composing?
Well, it's all different, right? If I'm composing, I've composed a lot of fiddle tunes. Now that's a very small little piece. I find with a fiddle tune, if I can get the first 2 bars, I got the whole tune. And that's a different kettle of fish, because fiddle tunes, I hope the audience doesn't take this the wrong way, but they're very formulaic. They're 8 bars. It's all, most fiddle tunes. There's other ones that are kind of deviate away from that. What I find with composing, and what I'm working on right now, is there's a difference between the end composition and the source material that the composition is based on. I've got lots of source material, and that's themes. That's like little germs, I would call them, that through a lot of composing tricks. There's all kinds of little games that composers play, and I hear it in all of the great composers. I hear it in Mozart. I hear it in Leonard Bernstein. He's a really important composer that I listen to a lot. You can hear it, repeats, variation. You can all these little things. So for me, there's really 2 steps. There's the source material, then there's the blueprint. Oh, the source material is kind of like the blueprint, and then the final product. And the final product, I've fooled myself many, many times. I said, I based it on this, but how did that happen? I don't know. I'm not gonna question it. And I feel that a lot of the composition, I'm kind of like a funnel, right? It's already out there, and I happen to find it. And the trick I find is documenting it. There's lots of ideas in the head, but to get that out, where either on the page or in the instrument, and document it so someone else can hear it, whether it's recorded or written down.
What's your favorite place to compose?
At home. At home is, I did some touring when I was younger, and never really accomplished what I call work while I was on the road. I like to be in my home.
Where do you find inspiration?
I find inspiration all around me. Just people's conversation, or or just I find a lot of inspiration in the garden. I'm quite an avid gardener, and it's I don't know. There's no direct connection, as long as I can balance my life with like being with people, friends and family, and being in the garden, eating good food, and keep myself physically active. I think that's the inspiration. I don't know. That's where it's hard for me to know. I get inspired by good performances and other music that I think, oh, gee whiz, I never thought of things that way. And again, coming back to the unpredictability of music.
Always willing to learn.
Oh, you're right, and that's so important. And I'm learning all the time with the students, because I see them trying to struggle with something, and then I can draw a parallel to myself. And if I'm practicing, I'm doing a scale, or some of the practice that I do can be rather mundane, but through the mundane, it helps the stuff that isn't mundane.
What influence has the internet had on music as far as you're concerned, or how has it affected you?
Oh, it affects me all the time. It's again through the students. If whatever they want to do, I throw the ball at them all the time. Okay, what do you want to do today? And they'll say something, and then boom, they got their iPhones there, so let's hear it. Like the availability, like just in a person's hand, they can have any music on earth immediately. So that in the last 10 years has changed everything. I really welcome it. It's great, because then I can get right to what they want to do. And for me, for my own inspiration, I rarely surf on the net. There's enough around me that to keep my brain going, occupied. But on the other side of it, I totally welcome it. It's the only thing that's not good about it is people trying to make a living, because everything is available at no cost.
There is another aspect that's coming in. It has come in, and it has been here for a while, is artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly going to have a huge effect, I think, on music.
Oh, it certainly will. Yeah. And I have no idea where that's going to go. So I was just on a kind of funny side of it. Well, I'd like to see AI play some really snarly blues guitar. Maybe they'll fit a way to figure that one out.
Is there do you have a different feeling when you walk into a venue, depending on what kind of music you're expected to play?
Not sure. Yeah, I think I'm not like the venue,
so you go to a concert hall, and
Mm-hmm.
they're basically a blues venue.
Okay.
So how do you feel when you walk in there as to how you're going to approach this audience?
Oh, yeah, that's I know what you're talking about now. Well, yeah, hopefully I would know ahead of time. For instance, if I was playing in a blues bar, and I've done that, I know that, okay, that's the agenda here. That's the style. That's the audience. Different audiences are fascinating. Again, a rant that I give to my students is, put yourself in the chair of the audience. That's really important. So yes, I do think about that. If I'm going to be playing, a funny story at the Red Shoe. Years ago, I was playing at the Red Shoe, which is really a Celtic club. But early on, there was other styles of music that were in there quite often. And I started out one night playing the most outside jazz blues it was crunchy. And it was not easy going for the audience. And the bass player he said, geez, man, you should play some tunes. And then I thought, oh, okay, let's do some jigs. And it was a good move. because I was way over. I was, I was interested. It was interesting, and some people really liked it. But there's some that just wanted to get the tunes, right? So it's really important that musicians know that the audience,
knowing your audience,
knowing the audience, and the thing with audiences, and again, a rant of mine, is audiences are way smarter than they give themselves credit for. They might know technically what's going on, but they know what hits them in the heart.
Do you get pre-performance anxiety?
Oh yeah, sometimes.
How do you deal with that?
Well, let's see. I just kind of barrel into it, and it's as long as I'm prepared. Like preparation is key. I think the things I get a little bit worked up over or when I'm conducting an orchestra, even if I know the music well, you never really know what's going to happen. It's live, and that's exciting, but it can be a little unnerving. But as long as I know the scores, and my own scores, I know them, of course, because I've written them, but there's been times where I have to conduct other people's work, and it's all a matter of preparation.
What is your favorite place to play other people's music and listen to it?
Well, I really like playing the Red Shoe. I like that club. That's a nice spot because of the way it's set up. The stage is on the side, and you play the width of the room, not the length. And I like to play in a venue where the audience is on all around, right? And close by, and I can see them. I've played lots of venues where the lights are really bright in my eyes, and I can't see the audience. I prefer to be able to see their faces, and that helps me a lot because in all the performances I do, there's always some kind of an imperfection, but I make up for it in the sense that, okay, that's gone now. It's immediate. It's live. It's done. That's a little one that's gone by. Okay, I'm not letting you down. I'm going to be right there. So I look out when I'm playing. I don't look down at the floor. I look out at the audience, and really, that's as long as a venue. That's the big one for me.
Your wife, you mentioned earlier, has a big part in your music and your life as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a librettist.
Yes.
And have you worked together forever, or?
Well, yeah, really. The Celtic Mass, that's another whole story of how that happened to be. But she put the words together for that. She adapted from traditional sources, and a few other ones as well. But on the business side of it, apart from the Celtic Mass, where we really collaborated, a lot of the work has been, she'll set things up for me to work on something, I'll work on it, and then she'll make sure that the after business is taken care of, and she's very right on top of the business, and it's a relief for me. I always like to know, okay, what is going on? Who's paying me? How much do they pay me? When do I have to have it done? And like all of the sort of the parameters of a job. As soon as that's all on the ground, then I can just get on with what I got to do.
Your career is a great musical success. You're an ECMA winner, Music Nova Scotia winner, Canadian Folk Music Award winner, and you've played pivotal roles in the rise of Rita McNeil, the Rankins, and as you mentioned, the Celtic Mass for the Sea. You're also responsible for the Nova Scotia Mass Choir. That's only a partial list of your accomplishments. With so much experience, what advice do you give for someone seriously considering a career in music?
Well, the prime thing is, well, I say there's two prime things, is just love your craft. Like, be true to your craft. Write music or play music that you would like to listen to. If anything, I would say I've heard music and the stuff that I don't like, and I think I would like to take whoever that person is and say, now, do you want to listen to that? Would you listen to that over and over again? Be true to your craft and be true to the business. I'm so lucky to have Jennifer to take care of the business and keep me on track. And sure, I'm going to be composing music that nobody's going to pay me for, and that's all right, because that's my choice. I'll write music that I don't have to play, and that's sort of where I'm at in my life right now. I will write music that, if it's on the page and written properly, someone else can play it, and they can do it their own interpretation. But I would say believe in your craft and be true to it. If guitar, I practice every day. There's no app for time in. There's a great saying. It's called "Don't push the river," and what that means, the river for me is the rate of which I learn. And so if I'm getting frustrated and I can't learn something fast enough, I should be able to play that. Then I got to slow it down to the point where I can get it. And if I don't spend any time at the river and I don't do it, then I'm not going to learn it at all.
That's wonderful advice. And on behalf of our listeners, and especially those thinking about a musical career, thank you. And thank you to our listeners. And please hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can stay up to date. And remember, subscribing to Highland Waves is free. Our quote for today is by the great Beethoven, who said, "To play a wrong note is insignificant. To play without passion is inexcusable." Scott will end our podcast by introducing and playing another of his wonderful music pieces. So long for now. Pat, take it home.
Okay, this is just a blues in E minor.